They can induce what they call a water hammer, which is basically shock waves in piping, and you get a big one going on an old brittle pipe. That's going to bring down water supplies indefinitely, and you really don't want that.
This is Code and Country with host Ian L. Paterson.
Welcome to Code and Country, where we explore the intersection of cybersecurity, national security, and technology. Our guest today is Craig Newmark, the founder of Craigslist and a philanthropist whose investments have reshaped the civic defense landscape in the U.S. Through Craig Newmark Philanthropies, he has committed over $100 million to causes including cybersecurity, journalism, and democratic resilience. His efforts have supported institutions like UC Berkeley's Citizen Clinic, the Global Cyber Alliance, and the Cyber Civil Defense Initiative, bringing a unique blend of tech entrepreneurship and public service into the cybersecurity conversation. Craig, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. And just because I created my own miscommunications, I've committed through the next 5 years to $200 million for cybersecurity, protecting the country, and a separate $200 million to support military families and vets, because I feel that we owe them an awful lot. And this is my way of kind of paying off the debt.
Well, that's phenomenal. So I'm really curious to get into some of these initiatives. For the 2.5 people out there who maybe have not heard about Craigslist, could you just give us a little bit of the origin story? How did that company start? And then what was your journey to what you're doing now?
95, I was living in San Francisco, but still just a new guy. A lot of people had helped me out over the internet over the preceding couple years. I figured I could give back by telling people about what I thought was cool stuff I heard about. Started a simple mailing list. It just kept growing and growing. And basically in 99, I made it into a real company. I decided to monetize it minimally, because I learned in Sunday school to know when enough is enough. Just kept taking it from there. In 2000, people helped me understand how much I suck as a manager. So I stepped down, became a full-time customer service rep. Around 7 years ago, people helped me understand that they didn't need me anymore, but I could do a good job in philanthropy, and that's where I am now. I'm focusing on areas which I think are important and don't get enough attention, like cybersecurity, like fighting scams, helping military families and vets, and that's what I spend all my time doing now.
So help us understand, what was the transition like, and what were some of the things that you saw through your work with Craigslist that pointed you towards the need for the cyber initiatives that you're working on today?
Thank you for listening to Code and Country, sponsored by Plurilock. If you're enjoying this episode, please remember to like, subscribe, or follow the podcast. And now, back to the episode.
Well, the biggest area which I'm now adding to my, let's say, portfolio of cybersecurity is fighting scams. I always knew about the possibility, but around 25 years ago, I started working with the cops, both local and federal, and they were encouraging me to do what the company could fight bad actors. Gave them my phone number to spread around, so I heard from a lot of cops. And fortunately, in one of my last acts of coding, I put into effect some rudimentary crime-fighting measures, like recording some forensic data, and that proved to be very, very handy. I also talked with a lot of cops via the Secret Service Electronic Crimes Task Force, and they told me one of the best things I could do was to have the company respond seriously to paperwork like search warrants and subpoenas. So I made sure that was a thing that was happening via customer service, because we take customer service very seriously, in particular very seriously, considering that we're a mostly free site. But that means responding to paperwork fast. And over the decades, I've heard that the cops are happy with that. That led up to an informal award from the FBI. And so that was the beginning of that tradition. I had actually started paying attention to cybersecurity since the mid 70s at college. And since then, I had been paying intermittent attention to it, not all the time, but it really helped me with Craigslist. For that matter, it helped me when I helped develop home banking for Bank of America. So all this I took pretty seriously professionally, and now even a lot more so. Cybersecurity is what I spend almost all my time on, since I've kind of outsourced support for military families and vets to Blue Star families and the Bob Woodruff Foundation.
So with the $200 million pledge towards building cyber civil defense, what does that concept mean to you, and what does it look like in practice?
Well, basically it means that, like with World War II, we're a country under attack right now, and everyone should play a role with that. That includes regular people, civilians, as well as our country's defenders. The biggest part of my effort, in fact, is to try to build a campaign like in World War II, when everyone realized they had a role to play, and we can help make serious suggestions as to what everyone should do. Everyone should be some basics to protect themselves and their families. If you're practicing those basics, that'll help protect your job. We're figuring out how regular people can also get our utilities protected, because enemy foreign military has already started to attack water supplies, electrical supplies. They're going after telecommunications and so on. I'm guessing your audience already knows what Salt Typhoon is and Volt Typhoon. The deal is that if we all take basic measures, that help protects the whole country. And when you go to work, you can help protect your company against ransomware attacks, stuff like that, by doing the basics. We're trying to figure out, how do we encourage utilities to better protect themselves without putting too much pressure on IT staffs who aren't funded well and who might be understaffed. We want to be the good guys, and frankly, I don't want to be a jerk about it.
So the analogy to World War II is interesting. What does a modern day cyber victory garden look like?
I don't know yet. I've engaged various PR and communication agencies to figure that out, committing millions to this, because we got to get everyone to participate. It's good for us all if people are paying attention to this. World War II communications is one great example of that. So is Smokey the Bear. Only you can prevent forest fires. I'd like to say only you can prevent cyber fires, but that's kind of lame. I need help from professionals. For that matter, one good example of a great campaign was Don Draper trying to buy the world a Coke. And yes, I know that's only a TV program, and a real guy came up with that, but we need some help that's Don Draper quality. Ron Ham, who I've met, is very approachable, and I need to make a note of that.
Yeah, well, hopefully, you can get some celebrity endorsements. I think that would be good. Where do you see the biggest gaps today in U.S. cyber resilience? Skills, technology, public engagement, etc.
I think it does start with public engagement, and that's kind of for everything. The hard part of this, like I was mentioning, is how do we encourage utilities who know about the problem, but they don't have the funding or staffing to really handle it? So my team and I were building the Cyber Resilience Core, and they're trying to figure out what's the next step. What are the greatest needs? That appears to be water supplies, because if the enemy managed to disrupt water supplies, let's say by crashing programmable controllers, the ones that run valves, that could be a really big problem. They could induce what they call a water hammer, which is basically shock waves in piping, and you get a big one going on an old brittle pipe. That's going to bring down water supplies indefinitely, and you really don't want that. A problem here is that most of the water supplies in our country, and there's tens of thousands of them, they are very small operations. There's a lot of rural ones. So the Cyber Resilience Corps, through the Franklin Project, is starting to work with the National Rural Waters Association. We're trying to figure out what do they really need to get the job done. Because sometimes before you need sophisticated cyber help, maybe you just need to help them get water pressure valves. You got to get those in place to stop a water hammer from breaking a lot of piping. Frankly, I had to address that at my home about a couple years ago because our plumbers, well, they installed them, but the wrong way. So I got to learn what a water hammer was the hard way.
A lot of your funding has gone to places like UC Berkeley's Citizen Clinic and the Global Cyber Alliance. Why those institutions, and what impact are you hoping they'll have on the everyday user?
Well, when I do philanthropic work, the way this started was that I first admitted to myself that I'm an amateur. I don't really know what I'm doing. So I would find a few people who are really smart in an area, get their advice, and then build networks of networks who could do the job. So that means I'm working with groups like the Aspen Institute and their cybersecurity group. They're providing a lot of good help. There's also the Global Cyber Alliance. For that matter, I've also talking to people in government who've been working in these areas, getting a lot of good advice, building up these networks of networks to get the job done. Sometimes I'm in over my head. I'm getting help from the R Street group because they know how this works in Washington, and I'm working with them to help build training for legislative assistants on Capitol Hill because everyone needs help. And I'm trying to do a lot of real things to genuinely help out, committed for the long term. The funding that I'm talking about, in the short term is going to go 5 years, and I'm trying to think ahead another 20 years.
So when I think of philanthropy, I'll usually think about healthcare, education, poverty reduction. Cybersecurity doesn't seem like it would be top of mind for most donors. Are there others similar to yourself that are interested in the space, or are you really leading the charge?
There are foundations who've done a great job. Hewlett Foundation did a great job in the past. The McGovern Foundation is stepping up, and I'm trying to figure out how to enlist more foundations. I mean, as a nerd, I have the opposite skill set when it comes to fundraising. So I'm making myself available to people who have the need and who understand this better than I do. This is really tough because it involves social skills. And as a nerd, as a stereotypical original nerd, I need to work on my social skills a lot more. I've been doing it for 70 years, and I think I'll get good at it around the time I pass on.
Do you have a way of measuring success? Meaning, if in 5 years' time you look back from where you started to where you got to, do you know what success would look like at that point?
I'm an engineer. I want to be able to measure success, and I don't know if there's a way to do it. What I'm looking for is that everyone in the country will be doing good cybersecurity practices. Maybe we can measure that indirectly by website traffic for our recommendations. If you take a look at pausetake9.org, that's the beginning of our mass mobilization effort. And the more traffic pausetake9.org gets, the better off the country is. But we need to get very loud to promote that. We need to get loud very frequently. And that's why I'm engaging professionals, because I don't have the beginning of a clue as to how to do it. All I know is it needs to be like World War II. It needs to be like Smokey the Bear, and we need to buy the world a Coke, meaning everyone should be protecting their computers and their phones, whether or not people realize that their phones are their computers. And a lot of people like me, our phones are our main computers.
So looking ahead, we'll stick with that same 5-year time frame. What do you think the biggest challenge is to building that strong cyber defense for everyday people?
The hard part is a national mobilization effort. The next part is convincing people who run companies and people who run utilities, like water supplies, to take this really, really seriously and to start with the basics that everyone should be doing. Along those lines, we need to make a set of solid recommendations, which we've started, but they have to be really good, and everyone needs to be doing stuff like, say, using single sign-on, using multi-factor authentication, moving to passkeys where they can, updating their systems. If everyone was doing that, that would help a lot. And that's true also of people at companies and at utilities. Those are basics, but a shocking percentage of people and companies are not doing that.
So we've talked about companies and utilities. What role do you see government playing in this?
Well, government needs to work with companies and utilities to beef up their defenses. And of course, part of government is the military. We need a much stronger national defense, and we need to do what they call to defend forward. That is, figure out what the enemy is doing, counter that on our soil, and to pursue the enemy as useful. The big .coms are starting to step up. Google has recently started to do that. They've made announcements about forward defense, and we need to do more of that, and then we need to do a lot more of that. Everyone plays a role when they defend themselves and their families. And again, we need regular people to bug the IT staffs where they work. We need regular people to remind utilities to do their part. We're only at the very beginning of that effort.
Craig, I have to say, it's such a pleasure to have had the chance to talk with you. You have literally found me my first apartment and certainly first futon. So I want to thank you for creating Craigslist and having the chance to join us today.
Oh, like I remind people, a nerd's got to do what a nerd's got to do.
Craig, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Code and Country.